Writers I work with often say that they're a little bummed once they actually start getting words on paper, particularly after they've had a book in their head a long time. They'll say things like, I just don't know if I'm doing it justice, or in my head it was so good and now I don't know. So that's what I'm talking about today. What does it mean when the book was better in your head? Let's go. Okay, I'll cut right to it. The idea for your book when it was in your head was flawless. When it's in our brains, it's perfection because we don't imagine flaws when we imagine, right? When we fantasize, including when we fantasize about an idea, we are imagining it in kind of its platonic ideal form. Whereas when we execute on that idea, it's not gonna be that. There's absolutely no way on earth it will be that, because once we execute, we're turning it into actual writing, and therefore it enters reality. And things in reality are messy and imperfect and full of blemishes, and that's just the nature of reality, right? Like that's just, true of all things that human beings are and that human beings make. None of us is the platonic ideal version of ourselves, right? And if we were, that would be kind of creepy. If a house were built with no tiny smears or wonky corners or dents in the hardwood floors, like that would be a little creepy. It wouldn't seem real. It would seem like you were in the TV show The Good Place or the movie The Truman Show, both of which have premises that it's not reality. This is all to say, it is the nature of reality that you will be disappointed a little bit, probably, in what you create, because what you create will not match the perfect idea that was in your head. I can almost guarantee you it. I dare say, though, that this is a good thing. It's not the flaws in the manuscript that are disappointing. It's the expectation that it's possible for there not to be any. Let me give you an example. I was recently listening to a podcast where a wedding photographer was talking about how the most disappointed she ever sees brides is when they come into their wedding day with an expectation of what other people's reactions should be on their wedding day. And then when the reactions of the people who are actually there on their wedding day don't live up to what they expected because they saw it in Instagram photos in other people's weddings or whatever, they're upset. I think this is a good analogy. The reactions of other people are not the problem there. The problem was the expectation of something in the first place, an expectation that was never going to be. It's the same here. And listen, I'm not immune, okay? This is way easier said than done, okay? Like a lot of things. Every book I have written has been a little bit of a disappointment because it's not been as good as it was in my head. But the kicker is I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with that. I would rather have the disappointment of a book that's not as good as the one that was in my head before I wrote it than I would the pain of a book burning inside me that I never wrote because I was afraid. That feeling is way worse. That kind of fear-driven paralysis is so much worse than going, wow, you know what? I was brave and wrote a thing. And listen, it may not be Margaret Atwood or Shakespeare or as good as it was before I wrote it in my head, but I wrote it and I did my best. I did the best I could at the time with the skills I had. I take a lot of pride in that. And you should take a lot of pride in that. And people will be proud of you. They will admire you even if the book is not their taste. And if they don't, okay. Who cares? There's no such thing as a perfect book. You could not write a book that everyone would love because there's no such thing as objectively good in literature. It's all subjective, which I honestly find to be a relief because it means you're just writing this to communicate to a certain group of readers, the ones who are attracted to your book and who will get something out of it. That's who you're talking to. So maybe that's gonna be 200 people. Maybe it'll be 2,000, maybe it'll be 200,000 people, but it's not gonna be everybody. And I think once we accept this, it becomes easier to write an imperfectly executed book that's a little bit disappointing because that still beats the alternative. And also, it's nothing to be depressed about. It just echoes the rest of reality. Speaking of writing, are you writing a book or do you want to write a book? Because if so, I would love to hear from you. When I'm not writing, my mission is to help writers write their dream books. And if you're curious to know more, I have a free video walking you through my 4 notebooks method for writing a novel. You can get it and my free template for using the 4 notebooks method by applying for my program, the Book Incubator, a 12-month MFA alternative. The application is just 2 questions. It'll take you under 5 minutes. I just ask you to tell me a little bit about you and your book idea. Go to thebookincubator.com or the link below. I hope to hear from you.